Hi, I'm Tyler with the Econ Tutoring Center, and today we're going to be going over the trade and how it affects surplus in the case of an export, when you're exporting a good, when the country is an exporter of the good. So, what we have here is just the closed economy, supply and demand. These are the equilibriums. In the closed economy, we're going to label those PD and QD for domestic. They also might be labeled MT for no trade, or maybe if you're using the United States as the model economy, they might be PUS and QUS. So, what happens now is this country opens its economy and it becomes an exporter of a good. So, what that means is that the world price is greater than the domestic price. Let's just say, for example, that this right here is the world price. So the price in the world market is higher than the price in the domestic market. Alright, so what this does is it changes the quantity supplied to right here, and it does this by just think of it as like a shift of the demand curve out. So let's just say that now there's all these other countries trying to get these goods, there's more demand for it. So demand technically shifts out, so you can call that demand world. And that's why the suppliers in this country now produce at this point right here. So this right here is the quantity supplied in this country. And so now what happens is you take this price, the world, which is now the price in this country, you see what do the buyers in this country, how many of them do they want? And then you just follow this price across the demand curve and you find out they're right here. So this is the quantity demanded in the country, and then the difference between these two. So this is how much the suppliers in the country supply, this is how much the people of the country buy. So this quantity is the quantity exported. So now what happens to the surpluses in this nation? So before, I'm going to label all these real quick. Alright, so before we opened the economy, when our price was here and our quantity was here, let's take a look at what our consumer surplus was. So that's the distance between the demand curve and the price, and I know it's kind of confusing because there's a lot of stuff going on here. But it's this triangle right here, and so that's A, B, C. So our consumer surplus before was A plus B plus C. And now, since we moved it, the price went higher, and so they lose this B and C, and the new consumer surplus is just A. So how did consumer surplus change? It lost B and C, so the change in consumer surplus was minus B minus C. So the overall loss to consumers as a result of the opening of the economy and becoming an exporting nation is minus B and minus C. That's the amount of surplus that they lost, because now they were A, B, C, now there's A. So let's look and see what happened in producer surplus. Before is the distance between the supply curve and the price before they opened the economy, and that is this triangle right here. So producer surplus was EF. And then they open the economy, they get a higher price, and so the distance between the supply curve and the price increases, so now they add B, C, and D. So now the total producer surplus is this really big triangle, B, C, D, E, F. So this is the second producer surplus. Let's see what changed. You can look at it on the graph. So they were here, now they're here. So what they gained from this move was B, C, and D, or you could just look at this and subtract this from this, and then you get the change in producer surplus to be plus B plus C plus D. So now that we know how consumer surplus and producer surplus changed, let's see how the net welfare of the economy changed. So consumers lost B and C, so they're made worse off. Producers are made better off, gaining B, C, and D. If you add those two together, you get the net welfare change for the economy as a result of this regime change, opening the economy. So you take this plus this, the B's and C's cancel out, and the change in net welfare for the country as a result of this regime change, opening the economy to trade, is plus D. So even though consumers were made worse off, producers were made better off in a way that outweighed the negative impact on the consumers to benefit the economy as a whole by the amount of area D. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, leave a comment or stop into the Econ Tutoring Center. And check your notation because, like I said, there's a couple different ways you can do all this stuff. So before you turn in your homework, make sure that you're using the notation that your professor wants.